Hello and welcome. I'm Weiser Cornell, and this is Support for Stressful Times. A year ago, the times were stressful because we couldn't go anywhere. And now they're stressful because we can. Oh my gosh. Of course, it's different everywhere. And of course, everybody has your unique reasons to feel stress in your life, your work, your family, your own health, for various reasons. And all of that is welcome. One of the interesting things I like to talk about is feelings, emotions, and how important they are. And how, when we try to manage our emotions by pushing them away, talking ourselves out of them, making ourselves wrong for our emotions, we just kind of stay stuck. But we also know that we don't want our emotions to carry us away, take us over. So what do? And what we do is cultivate the ability to be more than our emotions. So they get to be here and we are more than that. That ability to be more than the emotions is something I like to call self in presence. Self in presence. It's a funny term. Lots of people talk about presence. You hear that everywhere. And we didn't want to use a term that people would say, "Oh, I know that. I already know." We wanted people to say, "What's that?" Okay? And when I say we, I mean Barbara McGavin and myself. This is work that I created with my beloved colleague, Barbara McGavin. We named this big self in presence. And it's the essential ability that makes all the difference between being caught in the struggle with emotions versus being able to have your emotions and get the juice of them, get the benefit of them. Why? Emotions are very important. Our emotions let us know how we feel, what we want. Our emotions connect us with others. If you had a friend who never had any emotions, it would be hard to be a friend to that person, right? Now, yesterday I was talking to a group in Spain. Anybody here from Spain? Yesterday I was talking to a group in Spain about the idea of radical acceptance. And I remembered that the very first time I met Eugene Gendlin, my mentor, the words he said to the group were, "If you're here, you belong here." And let me say that to you right now. Hello? If you're here, you belong here. How does that feel? You belong here. You belong here because you are here. And for no other reason. Not because of your intelligence or your membership in some group. You belong here because you are here. And I would love to live in a world where that's how we approach each other. And I would also like to say, let's approach our emotions that way. Hello, anger, you belong here. And I am here sensing this part of me that's angry right now. Yeah, I'm noticing in the chat people's comments on the "you belong here," right? Feels warm, open, and loving. Oh, good. Thank you so much. Yay. We are a kind of community, even for half an hour. And even though we can't see each other, well, many of you are coming back every 2 weeks. And I hope you're carrying us with you as you go through these 2 weeks in between our meetings. Because what we're saying here can be so transformative and supportive. And that's the whole idea. Support for stressful times. Catherine writes in the chat, radical acceptance is radical, and it touches me deeply and brings tears. Yes. And you are welcoming those tears, Catherine. Ah, lovely, lovely. Why radical acceptance? What does that mean? Well, radical acceptance means accepting everything. Everything we feel has some good reason to be here and will change. And the first step to its changing is to accept it, to say to it, yes, you're here. Yes, I know you're here. And the emotions evolve. Everything is on its way to being something next. It's only when we don't feel, when we try to refuse our feelings, that they stay stuck. Does that make sense? Well, that may be easy to say, but a little harder to put into practice. And so, do you have an emotion that's rather hard to accept? By the way, I'm not talking about accepting actions. Like, I can't ever feel good about the way my daughter yells at my grandchild. My daughter actually, my own daughter doesn't do that. It's just an example that came to mind. My daughter's wonderful with my grandchild. But yeah, so let's imagine somebody saying, I can't accept the way my child treats my grandchild. You don't have to accept behavior, including your own. Although your own behavior has some good reason as well. But you don't have to act on emotions urging you to take actions in order to accept them, right? Accepting the urge to drink too much doesn't mean you drink too much. It means you turn toward the urge to drink too much and say, hey, how you doing? What's going on here? I want to get to know you better. Yeah. Okay, so people are answering in the chat my question, what's an emotion that's hard to accept? And Angelica writes, mine is anger. Hannah writes, grief and sadness for making mistakes. Ah, right. Yeah, and Christina writes, great sadness and despair. Jennifer writes, self-pity. All right. So let's try our magical language. If you are aware of an emotion right now, something you feel right now that's uncomfortable, because we're not talking right now about enjoyable emotions like gratitude and joy and kindness and connection. They don't worry us, right? So we're not talking about those. Let's take an emotion that is not pleasant to feel, that's difficult to feel. And this list that people have been putting in the chat, and including shame, we've added. Yeah, lovely. And envy, rage, hatred. Yeah. Good. Okay. So take one that's hard to accept and use this language. It starts with, I am sensing, and it continues, something in me is feeling, and then use the natural form of the word. So anger might be the name of the emotion, but if you use our formula, I'm sensing something in me is feeling angry. It feels angry. So angry, technically that's an adjective, not a noun. I'm sensing something in me is feeling tired. I'm sensing something in me is feeling shame. I'm sensing something in me is feeling envious. Sensing something in me is feeling grief. Sensing something in me is feeling sad. Yeah, ideally, we use that form that's got a more temporary feeling to it. Yes, there you go, Sam. I'm sensing something in me is feeling ashamed. You're right, it's ashamed. And Della writes, when my loved one doesn't accept my advice, I end up feeling like a failure. So you've got two parts there, Della. Something feels like a failure, and something in me is telling me I'm a failure. And that's what's going on when we have words that are not feelings, but are actually labels, like failure. It's a message from a criticizing part of us, and it lands here on a criticized part of us. And as self in presence, we say hello to both. But let me come back to the basic process here, and we'll build on that. So the basic process is I'm sensing. Now, what do we mean by I am sensing? The important thing here is that you're starting your sentence with the word I. And by the word I, you mean the, who you really are, yourself, your whole self. Because your emotions are real, but none of them is all of you. And we can tend to speak about our emotions as if they are all of us, right? I am angry. I am anxious. It feels like all of me. Yes, at that moment, it does feel like all of you, but it doesn't have to. And the shift in language can help you let your emotion be here and not be all of you. So I am angry. I am sensing something in me is angry. It's still angry. And I am the one who's sensing how angry it is. So the shift is not, the shift is a shift of language. It's also a shift in identification. Who am I identifying with? I identify with the big self who can turn toward the part of me that's angry, the part of me that's ashamed, the part of me that's sad, the part of me, etc., etc. Yeah. So Haja writes, I'm sensing something in me that feels grief. It's about moving to my new home. I'm hearing something that feels like it's a mistake. Something in you is worried that you made a mistake. Yeah. And Haja writes, going deeper, it feels like there's a part of me that feels it wasn't consulted in the decision to move to the new home. Interesting. Sounds like you've got some more listening to do. Now, that is really the point. When I can say I am sensing, something in me feels ashamed or angry, etc., then I become the listener to this something that feels that way. And I was saying a little earlier, emotions are all in motion. They are on their way to whatever they're going to be next. Anger is on its way to sadness. Sadness is on its way to irritation. In other words, by being present with what we feel, we allow a space in which it can evolve. It's when we don't allow that kind of space that things stay unchanged. Now, we're not making them change. Our whole intention is to be there, be present, listen, get to know it better. Get to know it better, which is what Haja did when she shared in the chat. She had a part that felt grief about moving to the new home, but going deeper, she could feel that this part of her feels it wasn't consulted. That wasn't on the top. That wasn't there when she first sensed. So it's the process of being present to how we feel and being interested, listening, sensing into that part of us that feels that way, that allows these steps of change to occur. And they're steps of change in the direction of further life, which I can't predict, right? My small self, I, I, this anger should change to something else. I don't know. I can't predict that. It's from being present that it evolves. And it often surprises me. It's often something I didn't expect. Sometimes what is going on in us isn't exactly an emotion, but it's the result of a part of us being an inner critic, being a protector part. So I'm noticing that Georgia wrote, I feel like I need to be doing more. Well, something in you is saying you need to be doing more. And so you would say, I'm sensing something in me saying I need to be doing more. And then maybe you have another something that agrees with it. But those are parts, and they feel bad. If they weren't parts, then you would either do more or not, and you'd be okay with that. It reminds me of the process I went through to release a writer's block. Like I would, for years, oh my gosh, I wanted so much to be able to write. I wanted to write a book. I smile because now I've written 5, but that was when I hadn't written any, and I felt, oh, my destiny is to write. But I couldn't. I mean, I didn't. I mean, I told myself I needed to, and I just would procrastinate, and it was really hard, and so on. So then I went through a process that's similar to the one I'm talking about now, and eventually the writer's block released. I didn't have a problem with writing anymore. Writing became easy. I wrote a book. Here's the funny part, though. After the writer's block released, there were still lots of times when I wasn't writing. But I didn't call that being blocked. It was resting or thinking or incubating. It was regenerating. So, how we interpret things, including whether we do things or not, really changes. It isn't always the same. Yeah. Mary Lynn writes, I have difficulty accepting the overwhelming boredom that envelops me when trying to listen to certain people I'm trying to listen to with compassion and understanding. I'm sorry. I'm laughing with recognition, Mary Lynn, not at you, but at recognition of that situation. I know that can be hard. Yeah. And something in you is feeling bored at those moments. So, what would it be like if you could inwardly say, not out loud because you're talking to those people, but inwardly, hello, something in me is feeling bored right now. I say hello to that. See, the trust is that the boredom comes for some good reason. And let's find out what it is. Maybe not during the time that you're talking to those people, but at another time. You could pause and sense that part of you that gets bored at those moments and say, I'd like to get to know you better. And feel into that sense that you're calling boredom, to sense what's going on. Where's the life in, in you at those moments? Camila writes, I'm sensing something in me is feeling fearful, and it's about the end of a support partnership. Okay, very good. You're using our language and you're sensing what it's about. And your next step will be to turn toward that part of you that's feeling fearful. Maybe you can feel it in your body. Take a little time to be gentle to the fearful part of you. It's something about, oh, this is a nice little phrase I want to teach you today. It's something about the end of a support partnership. See, we might be assuming that we know the reason. And we might be right about that. But it's interesting that even the reason that we're feeling a certain way has more to it. It's not simple. So let's say that Camila says, something in me is fearful, and it's something about the end of a support partnership. Oh, it's that what I got from that person, I'm worried I won't get from anyone else. Or it might be, oh, there's a feeling that reminds me of my childhood when my family moved and I lost my best friend. So there's more. And being able to pause and turn toward ourselves so we can feel our unique more, because if you give that question to 20 people, you'll get 20 answers. There's something about the world opening up and restaurants opening and travel opening and the pressure to go and meet people. There's something about that that brings feelings in me. But my answer will be different from yours. 20, we've got 80 people here right now, 80 different answers. They'll resonate with each other. We'll remind us of each other when we say what it is. But for each of us, it's unique. It's got our own history in it. It's got our own journey in it. And something exciting happens when we get in touch with what that is. There's a, oh, a step of release, a step of relaxation, a step of forward movement. Oh, I see. I've felt so safe staying home. And I'm really worried I'm going to lose that sense of safety, or whatever it is for you. So we turn toward how we feel, because I am sensing, I am the one who can turn toward how I feel. And from that position of turning toward, I'm curious, I'm compassionate, I'm friendly, and even difficult emotions, whatever is difficult for you, takes its next steps when you can bring that compassionate curiosity. Let's see what people are saying. Catherine writes, aha, emotions are ideally in motion, but I've been ignoring the grief I've felt. And now I can begin to accept and have compassion for grief. Oh, so nice, Catherine. Wonderful. And Christina writes, something in me doesn't want to allow the strong feelings and tries to block me from feeling them. Yes, we can have this inner conflict, this inner war between our parts. Something feels strongly, something else doesn't want to feel that. And we, as self in presence, can have both. The word both implies there's only two, there might be three or four or five, but we can have them all. And I can be with the strong feelings, or I can be with the part that doesn't want me to be with the strong feelings. And maybe that's the first one to be with, the one that doesn't want me to be with the other one. Maybe I need to start with the not wanting to feel that. And it too has more to it. I can say, so there's something about feeling those strong feelings that you don't want me to have to go through. And then wait and sense. Carol is answering my implied question about what feels hard to you about the reopening that's going on in many places. Carol writes, I'll be sad to lose the times alone that I enjoyed. I will be with the sad. And also, I hope that you, like me, will take the opportunity to keep sensing, even as there are more chances to go into the world and connect with others. Yes. Yeah. Eleanor writes, there's something that feels lodged in the heart, and it seems hard to shift identification to the larger I. Yeah, it can be hard. I say it like it's easy, but it definitely can be hard. Let's just take a few moments now to talk about what to do when it's hard. Well, the first thing to do is notice that it's hard. So you've got that first step already. I'm noticing it's hard right now to not feel that this is me. I'm noticing that that's really hard right now. It feels like all of me, this feeling I'm having. Good. By noticing that it's hard, you've just taken the first very important step to being the big I again. And then feel your grounding. Feel your body supported on what you're sitting on or standing on or lying on. And take a time to feel the shape of your body, to let your shoulders go back and feel, I am here. And then use the language we've been using several times, as many times as you need to, even if you don't feel any difference the first time. I'm sensing something in me, feeling sad and small. I'm sensing something in me that feels like all of me, feeling angry and enraged. I'm sensing something in me that feels lonely, and I'm saying hello to that. Repeat, repeat. Well, thank you for being with me today. I'll just briefly review what we said. We were talking about the radical acceptance of everything, and that means accepting our feelings, not our actions or the actions of others. And it means that what we mean by accept is being bigger than and turning toward, and understanding that everything we feel has a good reason and it's on its way to something else. Beautiful.